Welcome to the debut episode, the launch episode, the pilot episode of Disguise Coverage, part of the Cover One Sports Network. I am Anthony. I'm the host of this show. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. Give me a follow on Twitter. Tell all your family and friends and loved ones about the show, about the Twitter. Rate and review and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you are listening to this show on or watching this show on. Sign over the deed to your house in my name. That would be awesome. Sign the blood oath. Anything basic, social media, content creation related things that are just going to show your undying fidelity and loyalty to me, to this show, it would be greatly appreciated. What you're going to get from me on the Twitter and on this show, Disguise Coverage, you're going to get quality content, objective analysis, passion, someone that's going to give you the whys and the hows behind the who's and the what's. You're going to get context. You're going to get meaning for everything surrounding the Buffalo Bills. And if that's something you want, you've come to the right place. If that's something you don't want, that's fine. You can stay for my boyish and or rugged good looks and or my melodic voice. I've been told I'm the songbird of my generation. I've been compared to Celine Dion and other amazing singers, so feel free to stay for that voice or the content or whatever. While you're checking out this show, while you're checking me out, go follow Cover One. Go follow the whole team and subscribe to everybody involved with Cover One. Eric Turner, Greg Thompson, Aaron Quinn, The Hoof Podcast, all the dudes with that, Sterling Furrow, Eric Brown, Anthony Romeo. We've got you covered every single day of the week. Awesome content creation. We're the best content creating Bills coverage group in the game. X's and O's, analysis, breakdowns, all that kind of stuff. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the live show, the live stream right now. Thank you for listening to this episode, watching replays, anything and everything like that. All the support, all the love. I greatly appreciate it. I see the comments running through. I love it. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. And we're going to jump right into things. We're going to start with Josh Allen. And the reason we're going to start with Josh Allen is because for all intents and purposes, for better or for worse, this season, this team is tied to Josh Allen and will go as far as Josh Allen takes them. I don't think that's necessarily a novel concept or a viewpoint or a thought that anyone hasn't heard before. But in today's NFL, unless you've got an elite, legendary status defense, and the Bills defense is good. The Bills roster as a whole is very thorough. They're deep. They have quality. And the defense in particular is good. But the Bills defense is not a carry a limp, wounded offense to a Super Bowl. They are not the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are not the 2000 Ravens. They're not the 85 Bears or even like the Steel Curtain Steelers. But the Steel Curtain Steelers had a tremendous offense, as did kind of the 85 Bears. Walter Payton, amazing. But the Bills defense is good. They can win you games. They can get you to the playoffs. They can keep you in everything. But they're not going to take you to a Super Bowl with no offense. They can't do that. I don't think they can, but they are very good. And also, that's not a knock against the Bills defense. In today's NFL, in today's game, where the rules and the style of play are so heavily skewed towards the offense, especially the passing game, you can't hit a receiver, you can't touch a receiver, you can't cough on him, you can't look at him the wrong way, you definitely can't hit a quarterback, you can't say anything mean to a quarterback or like look like that at a quarterback to do anything kind of mean or worrisome like that a quarterback would be bothered by. You can't do any of that. And to take advantage of that in today's NFL, you can have a good offense. It's easier to be successful offensively in today's NFL than it was in years past. And in order to really get the most out of that offense, your orchestrator, your signal caller, your quarterback has to be that guy. We've seen it with, whether you want to go recently or even the last like 10, 15 years, the teams with really good quarterback play, like the Patriots, unfortunately, even the Steelers with Roethlisberger, what we've seen, the Chiefs with Mahomes, the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, even with the Falcons. I know they haven't won too much, but Matt Ryan with them every year. We saw what Lamar Jackson did last year, the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. I do think Lamar is coming back down to earth a little bit. But you see the teams who are successful year in and year out and who are championship caliber year in and year out, they've got strong quarterback play. And what the Bills are going for now is a Super Bowl, is a championship. I think we are not past the point, but I'm very objective in my viewpoint of the Bills. But I am most definitely a diehard Bills fan. I'm not a homer, but I love the Bills with all of my heart. If the Bills lose, it ruins my day. It ruins my week. I hate it. And so being a Bills fan, the majority of my fandom has been filled with ruined Sundays and ruined weeks. I was just a tiny, tiny, tiny baby with no consciousness when the Bills were in their glory days going to 4 straight. And I don't even know if those are the glory days, because if I had the consciousness back then that I have now and had to live through those 4 straight losses, I might have had a psychotic break and a conniption and would have gone off the grid forever. I don't know if I'd be able to deal with that. But my fandom, my formative years as I started, to grow out of being a little kid was like the 96 playoff loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars led by Mark Brunell and Natron Means, the Music City Miracle, the Monday night loss to the Cowboys, the other Monday night loss to the Patriots, the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers backups in week 17 when we had a chance to make the playoffs. All just terrible, not good moments. And the Bills team now has expectations. We are past the point of them just being like, oh, cool, we made the playoffs. Oh, cool, we got to the playoffs. Now it's like, that's not enough. Division title, conference championship, Super Bowl. If they all come in one year, that'd be fantastic. Give me a ring, just one before I die. That's all I want. And that's what the expectation is now. Now it's not just enough to be the plucky, happy, oh, dude, we made the playoffs. Like the drought is broken. This is awesome. Now there's expectation. That loss against the Texans in the playoffs last year, heartbreaking, soul-crushing, whatever label or verbiage you want to go with, it was bad. And it hurt way more than the loss to the Jags, because even though we could have beat the Jags in that first drought-breaking year, it was more just like kind of happy to be here type thing. I don't think we are that anymore. And once you get to be a winning team in a quality organization in any sport, making the playoffs every year is not enough. Doc Rivers for the Clippers in the NBA just got fired for not delivering a championship because that team was like, listen, it's nice to make the playoffs, but being one of the final 4 teams in the conference isn't what we're aiming for. We're aiming for championships. And that's what the Bills are going towards. And that all leads to Josh Allen, because in order to win a championship, the Bills need the offense and Josh Allen to do good things. You need to be a complete football team. You need to get some things done. And that's why we're going to start here talking about Josh Allen. Josh Allen is good, you guys. Hashtag analysis. He has, his performance this year, for me personally, I came into this year, again, focused on Josh Allen, focused on the offense, especially after the addition of Stephon Diggs. When you add a top 8 to 12 wide receiver in the league, which Stephon Diggs is, when you add that, and he's arguably the best route runner in the entire NFL, which is fantastic. When you add someone like that, it really shows the commitment to Josh Allen. And my thought coming into this year, I'll be completely honest, I wasn't down on Josh Allen. I wasn't even down on him when we drafted him. But coming into this year, I was very unsure as to whether or not he was going to be the guy or just another guy in the long line of failed Bills quarterbacks since Jim Kelly, excluding the GOATs, of course, like J.P. Lossman and Trent Edwards. Greatest. But Josh Allen was the focus for me, and I didn't know if he was going to be the guy. I thought if he could make another jump this year like he did last year, the jump that he made in metrics and statistics and on-field ability from year 1 to year 2 was good. If he could make another jump like that from year 2 to year 3, I would be convinced. And I'm convinced at this point. Granted, it's a small sample size. It's only 3 games. And the teams that he's played, there are some questions. But there's also really not, which we're going to get into. We're also going to get into the Bills' defense as this episode continues. So there's going to be some more talk and breakdown about that. But Josh Allen this year has been fantastic. And to emphasize that, we're going to talk about some numbers. I'm going to give you some fun numbers, some fun stats, And then we're going to break down those numbers, add context to those numbers, and talk about some Josh Allen. Josh Allen this year has a 71.1 completion percentage right now, which is fun because he's inaccurate and can't throw a football. He's averaging 346 passing yards a game. He's got 10 touchdowns passing, 1 interception, which was a garbage call and shouldn't count. I wish that would be stricken from the record. If we could add in the gif of Vince Vaughn yelling erroneous on both counts from Wedding Crashers, that would be tremendous. That interception should not count. But 10 touchdowns passing, 1 interception, 2 rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen's 12 total touchdowns on the season are the most through 3 games in Buffalo Bills history. He's currently second in the NFL with 1,038 passing yards, first in the AFC. And the only reason he's not first in the entire league is because Dak Prescott isn't first with 1,188 passing yards. And a decent amount of those has been garbage time yards that he's thrown for, especially in that comeback against the Falcons, because the Falcons have decided this year that they don't want to win football games ever. Only 6 QBs ever in the NFL have 1,000+ passing yards and 10+ passing touchdowns in the first 3 games of a season in the Super Bowl era. One of them is Jim Kelly in 1991. Shout out to Jim Kelly. The other one, Tom Brady, 2011. Gross. Peyton Manning in 2013. Ryan Fitzpatrick with the Bucs in 2018. Shout out to the beard. Patrick Mahomes in 2019. And Josh Allen this year in 2020. Josh Allen is in some exclusive company already. Granted, it's small sample size, 3 games. Josh Allen in this year's NFL has the most deep completions in the NFL. Deep completions defined as 15+ air yards. He has the most deep completions in the NFL, which is awesome because last year he really struggled with the deep ball, especially anything over 20 yards. He has the most in the league with 16. Second is Matt Ryan with 13. And third is Russell Wilson with 11. Pro Football Focus, I know, a very contentious relationship for Bills fans and Pro Football Focus. Josh Allen is 6th right now in Pro Football Focus passer rating. His adjusted completion percentage for the year is 79.1%. Adjusted completion percentage accounts for drops, throwaways, spikes, batted passes, and passes that the quarterback threw where they were hit as they threw the ball. He's got a 70.6 completion percentage on non-play action throws and a 71.7 completion percentage on play action throws. He has the 4th highest percentage of on-target throws in the NFL at 83%, behind only Russell Wilson at number 1, Derek Carr, quarterback that the Bills face this weekend, at number 2, and then Ryan Tannehill at 3. Numbers are fun, especially when they're good. If we go to the Bills offense as a whole, the Bills offense is 4th in the NFL with 434 yards a game. They're 3rd in points per game with 31 points per game. Numbers. Now the context. Josh Allen is good. You guys, #analysis. He has improved in so many areas, so many metrics. I think one of the areas of his game that wasn't really looked at and was overlooked last year was his intermediate passing. Everything below, and even his short game, everything really below 19 yards. He was a top 10 intermediate passer. At one point, he was 4th in the entire league in catchable throw percentage in the intermediate of 11 to 19 yards. His deep ball was atrocious. We know that. He was extremely terrible with the deep ball. But I also, not to make an excuse for him, after the New England game, the first New England game, where he did not play well and threw a bunch of picks, Josh Allen, when he would go deep, started throwing it to a point where either his guy was going to get it or no one was going to get it. And I think that's because in that game, he threw some balls that were kind of 50-50 balls where it was like, I'm going to give my dude a chance to make a play and make a catch. And unfortunately, his dudes did not make the catches. They did not make a play. And what we saw was Josh Allen throw some interceptions. After that, he was throwing his deep ball where either my guy gets it or no one gets it. Unfortunately, more often than not, no one got it. He was terrible with his deep ball. He was so bad at it that I think it overshadowed how good he was in the intermediate part of the game. And also with related things to his completion percentage, his accuracy, all that kind of stuff. Josh Allen plays hero ball. He's done it the first couple of years. He's done it a little bit this year. It comes and it goes. But what we always saw was him trying to always, on 1st and 10, he was trying to get 10 yards. He was trying to get 15 yards. He was trying to make the big play, the chunk play, all those big type of gains, the hero type of plays, whatever he could do. This year, in addition to the metrics, we've seen a change in Josh Allen's philosophy. Part of it, I think, is just his growth as a quarterback and his growth as a player. We've seen really great clips in interviews from him talking about his relationship with offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and Allen's mastery of the playbook, Allen's grasp of the game. And what we're seeing this year is a different Josh Allen. I think he's always going to be the type of guy who's going to attack. He's always going to want to get the game himself. He's a dog, as all the jokes and memes have shown throughout the offseason and the different clips from Bills players, especially Stephon Diggs. He gets after it. But what we've seen this year is Allen has been letting the game come to him a little more. He's managing the game a little better. He is, on 1st and 10, he's comfortable with, let me get 4 to 6 yards. That's a good gain. Let me dump it out to Singletary on the outlet and let him get 4 or 5 yards, or maybe break a tackle and get a first down. Let me get those easy completions that so many quarterbacks have gotten in the league because they throw bubble screens, or they throw 1-yard drags or mesh routes across the middle, or they throw screens to the running back where they just hit the outlet and dump it off. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl like that against the Chicago Bears and got an MVP because the Bears weren't covering the running back coming out of the backfield in their cover 2, and all Peyton Manning kept doing was dunking the ball down, dunking the ball down. As Ron Beck has said here in the comments, he sees the field much better. He 1,000% is seeing the field much better. And as Randy Hardman has pointed out, awesome comment, that's always going to be there. It's all about how he manages it. Exactly. It's how he manages the hero ball. It's how he manages the game. And again, he's letting it come to him, taking what the defense gives you. It doesn't matter if you score a touchdown in one play or if you score a touchdown in 17 plays on one consistent drive. Points are points. And Allen's grasp of the offense and his maturity as a quarterback, he's put that in tandem with his mechanics. And so now what we're seeing is better quarterback play on the field. His mechanics have definitely gotten better. And Carmen, you are right on point when you say we can thank Jordan Palmer for that. For those of you who don't know, Jordan Palmer, Allen's basic quarterback coach in the offseason, Carson Palmer's brother, has really been working with Allen, his mechanics, setting him up right in terms of how he throws, how he leans on his deep ball, keeping his head and his torso. The phrasing is like almost as if they're on like a stake. So if his torso moves, his head moves. It's not like one or the other. There's no disconnect. He's moving all in one motion. His mechanics have gotten better. I'm sorry, I have to put this. Excellent point, Greg. If we score more points than the other teams, we've got a pretty good chance to win. John Madden, 1,000%. Also said by John Madden, Brett Favre. Completely accurate. Allen's been doing better this year in all of those things. The mechanics, the offseason work, all of that stuff. He's gotten better. His arm angle, his launch angle, his trajectory, his footwork, the way he slides in the pocket, the way he turns. But all of that is useless if you are not tying it into field progression, reads, understanding coverages, understanding your playbook, knowing who your first option is, second option is in cover 1, plug, cover 2, cover 3, quarters, blitz, odd front, bear front, 4-3, 3-4, nickel, all that type of stuff. Your mechanics mean nothing if you can't tie it in to what's going on the field. And Allen's been able to tie it in on the field. His eye discipline is even better. The way he's able to move the safety and shift defenders away from his primary read and make them think one thing when really he's trying to do another. He's starting to actually play quarterback, which is something that was going to take time for him coming out of college. Josh Allen, out of all the quarterback prospects in that class, Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Allen, poor Josh Rosen. Allen was at least for me, but I think this is pretty universal, Allen was the most raw and the quarterback with basically the most undecided future. He had the biggest ceiling, but also the lowest floor. He was either going to be, well, not either, but he could either be a top 10 or top 5 QB, or he could be out of the league in 3-4 years. And I say 3 to 4 years because it was understood that he was going to be a project. He had size. He has a cannon and a rocket launcher for an arm. But he played at Wyoming, no disrespect, where you're not regularly coming into contact with NFL caliber talent on your team or in the opposition. I also mentioned that in a tweet, and not a lot of people, like 4 people got at me to give me the list of players who played at Wyoming who are in the NFL. I understand they have players who are in the NFL, but it's not the same context, not literal. He wasn't coming up against that competition all the time. He didn't have a lot of passing attempts in college. He didn't play in a lot of games compared to Baker Mayfield and Lamar, who had like 1,400 and 1,300 pass attempts. Allen only had 629 in 27 games at Wyoming. But he had great leadership. He had a personality. He had the mentality that Beane and McDermott wanted. And he had raw tools. But the thing is, with those raw tools, you got to give them time. You got to let them develop. You have to build and build and build. What Allen did in year 1 was jump over linebackers and break QB rushing records for the franchise and in the NFL. When you're a quarterback and you break a rushing record held by Mike Vick, you're doing cool things when you run the football. And that's what Allen did in his rookie year. And I think that kind of made everyone think he was a bit ahead of schedule in terms of his development. He was showing athleticism that we didn't think he was going to have. He was showing ability that wasn't necessarily something he showed on film in college. His running ability wasn't touted. And all of a sudden he was doing all these things. And I think it kind of made everyone think, oh, like he's doing great as a rookie, but he wasn't. Granted, that rookie season team that he had was terrible. The offensive line was terrible. The weapons were terrible. But what the Bills did is they knew he would continue to progress. Beane and McDermott, we're not going to get into it too much in this episode, but Beane and McDermott and what they've done behind the scenes and in the front office, building this organization has been tremendous. They've taken players both in free agency and in the draft, identified what they wanted from an on-field and off-the-field perspective, and have taken guys and increased their floor and increased their ceiling. I don't think anybody, when Trey White was drafted, we're going to come out and be like, Trey White's going to be one of the top 3 corners in the league. It was like, no, this guy's a B+, solid corner. He can be a 1, he can be a 2, good pick. No. McDermott and co. took him and turned him into arguably the best corner in the NFL. In Josh Allen's first 2 years, as Ron pointed out again, you're killing it in the comments, Ron. You're absolutely killing it. Josh Allen hadn't thrown for 300 yards in his first couple of years. He wasn't doing tremendous when it came to the quarterback aspect of the game. He still had the tools and the talent and raw ability and cool playmaking stuff. And he would make a throw that like 2 quarterbacks in the world could make. And then the next play, he would miss a throw that I wouldn't miss. He was inconsistent, but again, he was raw. He was raw. He was raw. But the jump that he made last year was really good. And if he could make that jump again this year, the Bills would be solid. And lo and behold, he has made another jump. I would say so far, again, small sample size, but the jump that he's made this year is bigger than the jump he made from year 1 to year 2. And there's also been some thought recently when it comes to Josh Allen. I've seen some tweets and some thoughts. I find it extremely foolish as to whether or not Josh Allen has improved this year or how good he's really doing or if he's just a product of a weak schedule. And I think that argument holds no water. Because last year, the Bills, for all intents and purposes, they had a quote-unquote weak schedule. They didn't play quote-unquote good teams. They played a lot of teams with losing records, and they beat them, and they got to the playoffs. But last year, when Josh Allen and the Bills were playing bad teams, he wasn't throwing for 300 yards and 400 yards. He wasn't leading the conference in passing yards. He wasn't killing it. He was still doing some fourth quarter comebacks, but he wasn't tearing up quote-unquote bad teams like he is this year. He is 1,000% improved. Do I believe he's where he is in terms of his numbers? Like, do I think he's a top 5 quarterback right now? No. Potentially top 10? You can make an argument for that. Before the season started, I had Josh Allen in anywhere from as high as like the 13th best quarterback in the league to as lowest as the 18th best quarterback in the league, somewhere in that range. I think he's bumped his spots up considerably. But again, he's got to continue to do it. What's really nice is his fourth quarter ownership and clutch factor, where he keeps bringing us back. Part of it last year was because he played so terrible in the first three quarters that he had no choice but to win it in the fourth. But I don't care. A win's a win and a comeback's a comeback. But the fact that there are still Josh Allen deniers or people who refuse to acknowledge his progression, again, I'm not saying, oh, he's better than Mahomes, he's better than Russ, he should win the MVP, although his numbers are impressive right now. But he has made a jump that is extremely encouraging. He mechanically, physically, drastically improved, and then the on-field product and his mastery of the position, his ability to play quarterback has gotten exponentially better this season versus last year, and he's increased with every game. It's tremendously encouraging. And you also got to give some credit to Beane and McDermott. That structure, that head of the ship that the Bills haven't had for so long. We have been lacking coaching and off-the-field leadership and front office leadership for so long. And the fact that Beane and McDermott were able to see Allen and devise a plan to improve everything around him, improve the offensive line, improve his weaponry, improve his support system to give him every chance for success. They set Allen up this year to the point of, if he doesn't succeed, it's on him. It's not like, well, he's got terrible weapons or he's got a terrible offensive line. The offensive line is good enough to protect him and let him do his thing. And the weapons are very good. Receiving core, definitely top 10, especially that top three, Diggs, Brown, Beasley, good running backs, good system. It's all coming together. I really like what Allen's done. As it says here on the feed, if you're watching live, watching the video, Josh Allen is good, you guys, and that's some hashtag analysis. He's killing it. He's doing really well, and hopefully he can continue and lead us to the promised land and be the prince that was promised. Hopefully he can fulfill the prophecy of being the guy that we need him to be. Next up, the Buffalo Bills defense, you guys. I like to put you guys in there because I like the way it sounds. Feel free to tell me that's awesome or terrible. But if you tell me it's terrible, I might still leave it because I think it's funny and I like it. The Buffalo Bills defense, I'm a little worried about it. Not tremendously worried. I am going to take a page out of fellow Cover One podcaster Aaron Quinn and say that if the Bills defense is still showing the vulnerabilities they've shown so far in about middle of October or end of October, I'm going to be worried. Good point here again by, I like these comments by Randy Hardman. Defense has been, sorry for lack of a better term. Yeah, they haven't been great so far. Granted, there's been some injuries and it's still early in the year, but I want to tie it back to a larger picture of what they've been. And first, before that, their numbers on the year, they are 21st in the league in yards per game. They're giving up 380.7 yards per game. They are 16th in points per game, giving up 25.7 points per game. They are 27th in passing yards per game, giving up 274.7. Last year, they gave up under 200 and were best in the league. They are 8th in rush defense, giving up 106 per game. But they've got increasingly worse in their rush defense over the the first 3 weeks of the year. They allowed 52 rushing yards in week 1 against the Jets, 99 yards rushing against the Miami Dolphins, and then 167 against the Rams. Joe Nelson, good thought. We miss Phillips and Alexander. Potentially. I also like your other comment saying the defense will improve, and I think they will, but I've got some worries with it, and here's what it is. Last year, the defense, they were the major reason why the Bills were what they were. They were the major driving force why the Bills had 10 wins. They kept the Bills in almost every single game. And they had a couple of really good performances. They had a very good performance against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So good of a performance that the Titans defense used that Bills blueprint to beat the Ravens in the playoffs. Logan Ryan was quoted as saying, I don't remember the exact phrase, but they basically took what the Bills did against the Ravens on defense and then did the same thing themselves to try and make Lamar beat them. The only problem with the Bills was the Bills didn't score enough points to beat the Ravens, but the Titans did. They executed better on offense and they got touchdowns. But last year, excluding the Ravens performance and the first Patriots performance, the Bills defense, if you start to look at it a bit, right, from who they beat and what they did. Oh, good comment, Greg. Good comment. 100% McD and Frazier laid out the blueprint to stop Lamar. And they basically did. The offense turned it over. They didn't play great in that game. The offense lost that game more than the Bills' defense did. But what we saw last year, and it's something that's brought up with Josh Allen all the time, but it's not brought up with the defense. People love to throw out like, oh, well, Josh Allen only beat like Duck Hodges and they only beat the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Washington football team. They only beat Brandon Allen and the Broncos, all these things. People love to do that to take away things from Josh Allen. But that same thing is also true for the Bills defense. Here's the list of quarterbacks the Bills defense beat last year. Sam Darnold, Eli Manning, Andy Dalton, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Dwayne Haskins, Ryan Fitzpatrick again, Brandon Allen of the Broncos, Dak Prescott, Duck Hodges. Right? The Bills' defense is a good defense. However, they came up against some not-so-good offenses last year and were able to feast. And even within that, we saw breaks and vulnerabilities last year from the defense, especially with regard to giving up the lead and especially with having fourth quarter breakdowns. We saw it in Week 16 against the Patriots. Bills took the lead. Defense gave it up. We even saw the same thing against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bills went down in the fourth. Allen brought them back, and then the defense iced it with an interception. They got blown out by the Eagles at home. We saw the collapse in the playoffs against the Texans, and that's not all defense. Everything ties together. If you score more points and score on every drive, it doesn't matter if your defense can't stop anybody. Just the same way, if you stop everybody and give up no points, then you don't need to score ever. But the Bills' defense has shown vulnerability before. They have shown that they might not always close out the game. They showed it last year, and they've shown it a bit this year. We saw what Miami did. And granted, Milano and Edmonds were out, and that's a big thing. The Bills' linebacking core, holistically, top to bottom, is not very strong. Milano and Edmonds, fantastic. The group as a whole, not so much. And although A.J. Klein played good enough and Dodson was a very nice surprise, this grouping is a very key part of that Bills defense. But even with that, we saw time and time again, play action, Gesicki over the middle. Play action, Gesicki over the middle. Trey got beat on multiple completions, multiple touchdowns. We saw breaks in coverage against Miami. And then against the Rams, just victimized play after play, beaten on the same thing, runs, plays over the middle, completions over the middle, completions on the outside. Some good throws by Goff, and not to take anything away from the Rams. They're a good offense, and they scheme tremendously. But the Bills' defense got whooped in that second half. And they've shown vulnerability to the point that they're leaky at times, and that's scary. Now, as many of you have said in the comments, we trust McDermott. We trust Frazier. We trust that they'll be able to do some things and correct things and course correct. And yes, there's also been changes, as a couple of people pointed out, like Jordan Phillips is gone, Shaq is gone, Lorenzo Alexander is gone. I also think Harrison Phillips is taking, just naturally, with an ACL injury like that, it takes you about a year or two to get back to being right, especially when you're a bigger guy, because if you're bigger, there's more pressure and strain on your ligaments. And an ACL is an extremely important ligament. But I thought the defensive line improved. I think their defensive line this year is much better than it was last year. The depth, the rotation, the versatility. Again, I know they're banged up. I also know Ed Oliver wearing a brace last week against the Rams, an injury that he sustained when he stuck his leg out for the tripping against Miami. He's a little nicked up a bit. And again, Milano and Edmonds being out changed a lot of things in the Miami game. And the Rams are a good defense. But I think coming into this year, much in the same way that we looked at the Bills last year, it was more like The defense is going to carry everything. And if Josh Allen can do his thing, the Bills are golden. I think it's slightly reversed now. Now the Bills are almost an offensive football team, and you're just hoping the defense can hang on and give them what they need. The good thing is the talent is there. The scheme ability is there. The coaching is there for the Bills defense. I believe they will right the ship. But as we continue to move on, if we're still having this conversation in October, end of October, because we're in October now, man, time flies, it's scary a little, especially with what we saw last year. We love to talk about what happened in the playoff game, or, the Bills didn't score enough points, or this call was blown, or this call was blown. At the end of the day, the Bills had a big lead and they squandered it. But as Ron Beck has said, this defense is really good. They do have talent. I know they don't have the names necessarily of, this all-pro and this all-pro, really, other than Trey, but they've got talent. Hyde and Poyer are a tremendous safety tandem. Levi Wallace has played well. We'll see what they look like getting Josh Norman back. Milano is one of, if not the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. Tremaine Edmonds is still basically a baby and is a monster and is only going to get better. And the D-line's good, and we'll see how they progress. But am I on the edge, ready to jump off and freak out? No. Am I thrilled? Definitely not. But I am a little concerned. And if we continue to have this conversation, my concern will grow with each week. Speaking of with each week, our next week, matchup with the Raiders, you guys. See, I told you it would come back. I love saying you guys. I don't know why. I just feel like it's like catchy and kind of like fun, so I'm going to keep doing it. The Raiders this weekend. Let's start with some people who are going to be out. It looks like their top two receivers, rookie Henry Ruggs and rookie Brian Edwards, who are both very good. It looks like they're going to be out this week. They also have some injuries along the front, along the offensive line, which is a very good offensive line. But despite that, what scares me in this matchup are two things. The passing attack that they have of Derek Carr, and I know that might be like a laugh, because I know it's kind of like laugh out loud Derek Carr at this point. But Derek Carr is better than people think. And Hunter Renfrow is a pretty fun and cool slot receiver. Darren Waller's a very good tight end. And what have we seen from the Rams game, from the Dolphins game, and even a little bit from the Jets game? Oh, I like this. I'm going to pause for this. Joe Nelson, smash that like. Oh, yes, smash it. Smash that like until it breaks. I appreciate everybody who's riding with me on this. You guys are fantastic. We've seen the Bills be victimized in the middle of the field. Renfrow feasts in the middle. Darren Waller kind of feasts everywhere, but especially in the middle. And what we've seen from the first couple of weeks, well, first several weeks, especially in the Miami game and the Rams game, was the play action. Linebackers get sucked in, tight end behind, slot receiver behind. And that ties into what the Raiders do very well with Carr and Renfrow and Waller, but also with their running game. Josh Jacobs, Raiders running back, taken in the first round a couple years ago, which is a big deal nowadays, because when you take a running back in the first round, he must be really special, because teams don't really take running backs in the first round anymore. He is fifth in the NFL in rushing yards right now with 252. He's second in carries with 68. He's got 10 catches, 3 touchdowns. He's had a very good start to the year. He's a good running back, powerful, explosive, agile, everything that John Gruden wants in a running back. And I know they're banged up on the offensive line, but they still have a good offensive line. And despite, much like Derek Carr, despite all the John Gruden jokes of how he wears his mask, or comments he used to make on Monday Night Football, or the trading away of Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack and the teardown and all that, John Gruden's a good coach. And especially on offense, he knows how to scheme. And the running game of the Raiders is good. It's going to be a fantastic test coming up on the week after this Rams game, because the way the Rams ran the ball against us time and time again, the Raiders are going to know that, and the Raiders have a good running game. For all of us who are worried about the Bills' run, sorry, I want to throw out there, Spider Y2 Banana, that made me laugh. Good comment, well played. For all of us that are worried and nervous about how the Bills' run defense is and what it looks like, we're going to be able to find out almost immediately what it's going to be because the Raiders want to run the ball. They're going to run the ball, and it's going to be a good test to see what the Bills are going to look like against a strong running game. And if the Raiders can run the ball, well, that sucks because it's easy to continue drives and maintain points and leads when you can run the ball. But also that leads into the play action game. And if they can run the ball, not only are they going to run the ball well, but Waller and Renfro and the rest of their passing attack, which includes Zay Jones, which so help me God if Zay Jones scores a touchdown against us or does something. Not that I dislike him, but just kill me if that happens. If the Raiders run the ball, it's going to be a problem. But it'll be good to see what we do because you know, McDermott and Frazier were not happy with the run defense last week, with the defense as a whole. But the way we were taking angles to the run fits, the gap coverage up front, you know that McDermott and Frazier and the defensive coaching staff as a whole, they're going to coach that up. You also know that John Gruden noticed how bad the Bills' run defense was last week. And you also know that McDermott and Frazier noticed and know that John Gruden knows what they know. And we go round and round a little perpetual circle like that. But there's a decent amount of scheme ability versus scheme ability, coaching versus coaching. And it's going to be fun to see what the Bills do. It's nice to see that Tremaine Edmonds is progressing nicely in practice. It's nice to see how the defense is getting slightly healthier after all the injuries in the Miami game. And as the comment here shows, the run defense is troubling. It is troubling. If you can run the ball in the NFL, so many things are possible. It's way easier to run the ball than it is pass the ball because all you have to do is snap it, turn, hand off. It's much easier than hiking the ball, dropping back, reading the coverage, reading the receiver, having to make a throw. It's infinitely harder. So if you can run the ball, it's easier, to sustain drives and make things happen. I'm extremely interested in seeing what the Bills defense does against the run this week and against this Raiders offense, which also features Derek Carr. Derek Carr, as of this moment, I mentioned earlier, he is second in the NFL in on-target throw percentage. And with that on-target throw percentage, they feast on the intermediate part of the field. They are a traditional West Coast offense that runs the ball. In week 1, Derek Carr only had 3 passing attempts above 20 yards. In week 2, he had only 1 pass attempt above 20 yards. In week 3, he only had 3 pass attempts above 20 yards. And that week 3 game against the Pats included garbage time. So they are still intermediate. And that's where the Bills have also struggled this year. We saw it against the Rams. The middle of the field, the 10 to 15 yard area, both on the outs and in the hook curls and in the flats, but especially in between the hashes in the middle of the field, we saw them get eaten up time and time again. The Raiders' specialty, West Coast offensive passing in the intermediate and running the football. We'll see what happens in this week. I'm extremely intrigued. I don't give predictions really ever. If you look on my Twitter bio, it says Michael Scott quote, office quote, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. I am 1,000% superstitious. I don't answer my phone during games, text or phone calls. I don't tweet during games. I try to sit in a similar position if I think the Bills are winning. I'm wicked superstitious, mad superstitious, whatever phrasing or verbiage you want to use. It's going to be a tough matchup. I'm nervous about it. But what I also like about it is I think it's a good test. I know the Raiders are banged up, Ruggs being banged up, Edwards being banged up, their offensive line being banged up. Trent Brown, as some of you have mentioned in the comments, their right tackle, I think he's going to end up not playing. He's kind of gone back and forth a little bit. But we got to see what they're going to do. Good comments coming through from Ron. If we get some pressure, Carr will turn into a pumpkin, I'm guessing. That's funny. I hope you said pumpkin on purpose because we're in October and that's a theme for Halloween and fall months. That's very good. That is very true. We can get pressure. I think we can, especially if their line is banged up and especially if we can keep rotating the front 4. And if Milano and Edmonds are healthier, their blitzing ability definitely helps. As Randy has said, again, another good comment from Randy, defense should be playing downhill this week. Poyer roaming, coming down in the box, hide at center field. Yeah, we have to cover the intermediate more. We haven't the last couple of weeks. We've been eaten alive in the middle. It's tough. But it's fun. because one, it's Bills football, which is always fun. Two, it's a good immediate test coming out of that Rams game. We got killed in the middle. We got killed in the intermediate. We got killed in the running game. What do the Raiders do? Work the intermediate and run the ball. And it's going to be fun to see what McDermott and Frazier, as Young King put McDermott and Frazier together, is a defensive Einstein. It'll be fun to see what our defensive Einsteins do in response to last week, encountering a good offensive mind in John Gruden and a somewhat overlooked Raiders team. They built a good roster over the last couple of years. They've added good pieces. I know some of those pieces are out this week or potentially out, or even if they play, they're banged up. And I think they're better than people realize. But it's a game the Bills can win. It's a game the Bills need to win, especially as we start to enter into the games against Tennessee, the games against the Chiefs, the games against the Pats, the games that get increasingly harder. It'll be good to see. I have one last fun fact that I want to share with everyone. The Bills obviously are 3-0 this year. I didn't know this. This is the 7th season in the last 10 seasons where the Bills are either 3-0 or 2-1 in their first 3 games. That's a fun fact. I would have thought it was way less. But it also shows that we've had good starts coming out of the gate and have faltered before. This game's going to be a good game. I'm extremely intrigued, as I am always, every single week. It's going to be tough. I like this last question. I'm going to answer this question. Joe Nelson, will Buffalo get 50 sacks? Ooh. I don't think so. I think they'll get more pressures than they do sacks. That's really what they've been the last couple of years, is a pressurized front. They don't get a ton of sacks, and it's hard to in the NFL, especially when you don't have like a pure sack getter like a Von Miller or Aaron Donald or someone who can just burn off the edge and just generate his own thing and win the one-on-ones. The Bills' front four, I don't think any one of them is pure man beater over and over again. They're very scheme-based. They stunt. They pressure well. They work in tandems well. But it's not cool. I'm just going to let this guy line up and win his matchup. They don't have that talent up front. But they have a good group as a whole. Collectively, they're all like B's to B pluses. But they don't have that A plus A guy who's going to win his matchup every single time. 50 sacks? I don't think so. But just because you're not getting sacks doesn't mean you can't be a good front and that you're not doing good things to affect the quarterback. Generating pressure is legitimate, especially when you have a coverage grouping like the Bills have that can feast on interceptions and who play tight coverage and good coverage. If you can force quarterbacks into rush throws or hit them and get the ball to go up in the air, with the coverage ability of Milano, Edmonds, and the secondary, sometimes generating pressure is enough. You don't always have to get a sack in order to make an impact on the rush. Getting pressure and getting in a quarterback's face and hitting them and hurrying them is sometimes just as good. It doesn't show up on the immediate stat sheet, but it's still a good thing. And last comment there, yeah, the Bills, they do have a very good rotation up front, but they don't have superstars. And that's this first debut episode, you guys. I want to sincerely thank everyone who has watched this live stream, who's listening to this episode, whatever platform you're watching on, whatever platform you are listening to this on, all the comments, all the engagement, and the interactivity. I'm extremely grateful, thankful, and proud of the work that I do, and I'm so grateful and thankful for this opportunity. I've told the Cover One dudes over and over again, Greg and Aaron and Eric, them bringing me on I've been podcasting for a little over 2 years. I've been doing Bills stuff since about April, and I noticed Cover One right away for their excellent content and their ability, and it was something that I penciled in and bookmarked as like, man, like, I'd love to be a part of that group. And they came knocking, and I could not have been more over the moon for that opportunity. And I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode. There's going to be more great content to come. For those of you that didn't enjoy this episode, I feel like it was good, so I'm going to blame you for not liking it. I feel like that's more of a you thing than it is a me thing. But no, seriously, thank you everybody for riding with me on this episode. For whatever you're listening to it on, however you're viewing it, watching it, listening, whatever. And please spread the word. Tell all your family and friends and loved ones, your enemies, your pets, your dogs, your cats, fish, random people on the street. Just go knock on people's doors, smash their window, and be like, hey, you should check this out. And they'll be like, who are you? Be like, doesn't matter. Check out this episode. Also do the same thing for Cover One. As I said in the intro, I truly believe we are the best content creators and analysis givers of Buffalo Bills football. The X's and O's, the whys and the hows behind the who's and the what's. We've got something for everyone. We have you covered pretty much every day of the week, knocking everything down on Bills games. Awesome content, awesome grouping. Again, thank you tremendously for everyone who joined me on this episode. Thank you for everything that everyone has said in the comments, the interactivity, the engagement, all the thank yous. I'm seeing everybody. I want to pull up everybody's things again, but there's honestly so many that I don't want to leave anyone out. Thank you so much. Thank you for the likes. Please rate and review and subscribe to the episode. I'm sorry, not even to the episode, to Disguise Coverage, to Cover One as a whole. Follow me on Twitter. I'm very active in the evenings and especially after games. I don't tweet during the games because I am superstitious. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate everyone. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week.